I can hear you. Um, I think the things that she's good at are the things that she did today. That's kind of who she is. That was her high school career. You know, she's a really good shooter. She's pretty smart. She's quicker than she looks at getting to getting that first step by you, and she's smart defensively. Last year I think she struggled with some, you know, uh, confidence issues mostly. I bet you the first 2 weeks of preseason she was probably going to be in the starting lineup, and then all of a sudden, she was sick, missed about 4 or 5 days of practice, and never really recovered her, sense of I'm really good. And I think she came back this year, um, better prepared for what was coming, and that's probably the only thing that holds her back is truly believing that she's good enough and belongs out there with this group.
Geno, now that you've had these two exhibitions and you've had a whole 6-month off season, parts of which were spent celebrating the championship, which is nice. How's it feel to actually get into the season now, onto pursuit of real goals in 25, 26?
Yeah, I really didn't think that much during the off season about these about the previous season. I I don't know why. Usually if we win a championship, it stays with me a little bit longer. This time it didn't. So there's no hangover for me, and I don't think there is from the players. I'd be more worried, let's say, if we have Paige back. These guys are going to be overconfident. They're going to be cocky. They're going to think that this is going to be easy. I think we all understand last year was great. It was a great year, and it came out perfectly. This is a new year. I'm excited for the challenge. I was saying this recently. I have to learn how to sub again. We've had 3 or 4 years in a row there where, there's nobody to sub, so it was easy. Players have to learn. Some of our guys have never played on a full roster, so they have to learn how to be really efficient in a shorter period of time. So there's a lot of challenges. The preseason schedule is challenging, and I'm looking forward to it. I try to explain to our players all the time. This isn't going to be we go out there and start against Louisville and then we go undefeated the rest of the season. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be a lot of learning with 5 new players. So there's a lot of exciting things that are ahead of us, and I want to try to enjoy them, and I want to try to help them, overcome some of these challenges that we're going to have.
Going back to Allie and just the depth you guys have, do you see that competition playing out at all, whether it's in practice or in the gameplay with exhibition?
Some groups look better than others, obviously. Some groups defensively are better than others. I think a lot of it depends on who's out there with who. If we have the wrong combinations out there, someone who's really good won't look as good. So, and practice has been a lot of that. And that doesn't mean that, this player is better than that player. We just have to put them with certain combinations that make them look good. And if Allie's out there with the right group, especially if she's out there with AZ, then I think that that helps her a lot, knowing that she's got an experienced guard out there with her that people are going to have to guard. But I think if Allie's making shots, Ash is going to make shots. That's the way it goes. You know, people kind of take, you know, take the approach of we have a lot of guys that can shoot it, and I have to be one of them. So I'm glad that they approach it that way. I mean, AZ started the game with a 30-footer, so I guess our team's not shy. You know, yeah.
The freshmen and Kaylee all seemed a little more settled today. Just where have you seen them progress, and what are kind of the big hurdles left for each of them?
Mostly wow, my voice just got really loud. Mostly in the recognizing what the flow of the game is. Not that it was a bad idea. Mostly in the flow of the game. You know, what comes next. You know, they've gotten better at that. Still not where we want them to be, you know, but I want to try to help them. What do I do? So many of these kids have trouble when they don't have the ball. You know, when you're on a good team with a lot of pretty good players on the floor at the same time, you have to be pretty good at what I do without the ball. You know, Kaylee Heckel today, a couple times, you know, when she has the ball in her hand, she's pretty confident. I mean, she's, you know, Blanca the same way. You know, they just put the ball on the floor and they go. But when they don't have the ball, I want to make sure that they're productive, that they're doing. So that's one thing. And I like their aggressiveness. I think they're really aggressive. You know, imagine how good we're going to be when, you know, maybe in Europe you just throw it to the open man. Here in America, Blanca will learn that open man has to have the same jersey on that you do. And I think that'll be pretty exciting to see that. Sarah Williams probably doesn't know a lot of our sets. We don't have a lot of them in there. I think she knows. I think the play she knows the best is throw it to me. You know, what play are we running? She says throw it to me. You know, she wants to go in the lane, and she knows where she wants the ball, and she works really hard to get it there. So they all have strengths that I really, really like. Khalees even, you know, they have strengths that really, really are going to help us. I want to help them with the other parts of the game. So come April, they're a little more well-rounded, you know.
KK's only made field goal today was a three-pointer. Have you seen any improvement from her from deep? And if so, how much?
It's streaky at times. You know, she'll go a few days and make a bunch. Then she'll go a few days and not make any. But she's putting the time in, and it is becoming a little more. She's becoming more comfortable taking. I don't think last year she would have taken that shot that she made today. So I want her to feel comfortable taking it. You know, we talk to her all the time about if you're not willing to take that shot, we're playing 5-on-4. You know, realistically, that's what happens. So I like that she's put enough time into it that she feels comfortable with it.
Sticking with KK, this is her second game leading the offense. Are you liking what you're seeing from her? And do you feel like she's playing a little bit more control over her speed, control over her just ability to see the court?
Yeah, I would say so. I think she'll end up with the ball in her hands more. As I mentioned earlier to you guys that, you know, for her first 2 years here, we had pretty ball dominant guards. You know, whether it's Nika, Paige, Caitlin Chen. That now she's going to have the ball a lot more than she did before. So her decision making is going to have to be, really crucial. And so far, you know, it's been really, really good. You know, one of the big things with players, especially guards, is they they live for the big plays. You know, they live for the great pass. They live for the, wow moments. And I think understanding how to be happy with three singles add up to a run. Doesn't have to be a home run. So just like I don't have to make a lot of threes, but I got to make a couple when they really count. So all these things are when you get to be a junior here at UConn and those other players aren't here and the ball's in your hands more often, quality decisions and quality plays are way more important than, the quantity of plays that you make.
Coach, Sarah Strong said that after the Boston College game, there was a bit of defensive communication problems. After today's win, what are your thoughts on that?
Better. It was better. I think that's every team that I've ever coached starts the season with those problems, and it gets better as the season goes on. But it's not easy when you're trying to incorporate a lot of new players. And the other thing, every year when you replace players that were very talkative, like Caitlin Chen, Paige Beckers, those two especially, it masks what the other guys are not doing. Now, when you don't have those two voices, you can tell the quiet. And so that's a learning thing. But it's every team. When you graduate seniors that have learned how to talk and communicate, you got to start all over almost, So it wasn't great against BC, but it was better today. And it'll have to be better next Tuesday.
No Gandy today.
No, she got whacked by Sarah Williams. Yeah, she got in the way, and when Sarah wants to score, Sarah's going to try to get a shot up, and Gandy doesn't let people just shoot over her. So there was she got whacked pretty good. So no Gandy today.
Is that a long-term?
No, not at all. Hopefully, she'll be active next Tuesday.
Geno, you alluded to this. There's a lot of good teams on your schedule right away. November itself is going to be really challenging, and I would assume really revealing. What do you hope to learn about the group in the next 4 weeks or so, about your group?
I always wonder, does winning a championship change you, and now you walk around as a different person? You walk into every arena expecting to win. You walk in, that team goes on a run, and you're down 8, 10, that you just kind of shrug it off and realize that we're going to go on a 14-0 run. Like, do we have that kind of team? That those players have come out of last year with that kind of swagger, that kind of confidence, self-assured. So, yeah, I want to find out, do we have some of that? Has that been a carryover? We had it the whole NCAA tournament. Did it come from, just Paige and Caitlin, or did it graduate with them, or did it stick? That's why you play the games. That's why you play the schedule that we play, right? We want to find out what we've got. And people are going to be in somewhat uncomfortable situations. So I think that's also good. They're going to need to rely on each other. So that's also good. And I think they know this, obviously. We lost the best player in the country, and we didn't necessarily bring in the best player in the country to replace her. So everybody's got to rely on each other a little bit more. And November's a good time for us to find out all those things,
Coach, one of the fun things about watching Sarah last year was her ability to have a massive impact on the defensive side. Now that she might be shifting positions a little bit, do you think that she has the opportunity to have an impact on defense in a different way this year? And if so, what might that look like when it starts clicking?
Last year, I don't know that we had as much of an inside presence as I think Sarah Williams gives us. And I think Jenna has gotten better, as you saw today. But what made us really hard to play against last year was we played small. You know, we played with 4 guards and we played with Sarah, and she was a really difficult matchup for everybody. So she was constantly overmatched in size, but they had an impossible time guarding her. She spends more time now wandering on the floor. You know, she's not in the middle of the floor all the time like she was last year, which is good for us and good for her because theoretically it's going to make her harder to guard because they don't know where she's going to be. You know, last year they kind of knew and they still couldn't guard her. But defensively, she's going to be matched up with a lot more guys on the perimeter. And I love that because she's really quick, she's really smart, and I think her impact usually is how smart she is in guiding people to where she wants them to go, and then being the best rebounder on the floor all the time. So I don't know that part of the game is going to change.
Coach, I'm Julian from the Southern News, student paper at Southern Penny. Wondering if you could say a few words about what UConn did well tonight.
They got a bunch of open shots. They didn't make as many as probably they're going to make. You know, I think the difference in talent obviously has a big effect. And what happens is you get rushed. And they had that one stretch, you know, where, I don't know, we scored like 30 points or something like that in a row. You get really sped up. But I thought in the second half, or once they got into a little bit of a rhythm, I thought they had a pretty good idea what they wanted to do. And, you know, you can tell a lot about a team by what are they trying to do. So they were trying to do things that are going to really, really work against other teams that they play. It's just, it's hard for that stuff to work, you know, in this environment against this level that we have. But just like, you know, most really well-coached teams, they weren't just running up and down the floor and saying, hell with it, let's let Connecticut do whatever they want and let's look like we've never practiced. You know, they looked like they had a plan and they knew what they wanted to do. And they got a bunch of threes out. How many did they get? 24 of them. And I would say a lot of them were open, I think, which says a lot about them, you know. It says a lot about us, too, to be honest with you. Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody.